The animal that kills the most people in Africa isn't the lion, it's the hippopotamus. This creature, often seen as clumsy and even likable, is actually the most aggressive mammal on the planet. And that's the key to its lethality. Its appearance is deceiving. We see a large, heavy, almost comical animal and we let our guard down. But in the rivers and swamps of Africa, that confidence is a fatal mistake. There are no warnings. No warning roars like a big cat gives. There's only a sudden attack, an overwhelming force that erupts from the water without notice. By the time you realize the danger, it's already too late. This isn't an exaggeration. It's a statistical reality that defines life and death along the banks of the continent's most iconic rivers. To understand why it's so dangerous, we need to take apart the image we have of it. Let's start with its environment. Hippos spend more than 16 hours a day submerged. Water is their refuge, their fortress, and their hunting ground, even though they don't hunt to eat. They're semi-aquatic animals, but with a quirk many people don't know, they don't actually swim. They're too dense to float and paddle with any agility. Instead, they walk or push off along the riverbed, like an astronaut moving in slow motion on the moon. This way of moving lets them stay hidden, with only their eyes and nostrils poking above the surface, watching over their territory. They can hold their breath for up to 5 minutes, more than enough time for a boat to confidently approach what looks like a calm stretch of river. And that's exactly when the attack happens. And if you think the danger disappears once they're out of the water, you're wrong. Here's the second fact that breaks every assumption. Despite its massive body and short legs, a hippo can run on land at nearly 19 miles per hour. That's faster than most humans. Picture it, a mass of more than 3,300 pounds charging at you at sprinting speed. The idea that hippos are slow and clumsy is, once again, a deadly illusion. This ability to be a threat both in water and on land makes it an animal that's nearly impossible to escape once it decides to attack. There's no safe spot. But the true measure of its destructive power lies in its mouth. A hippo's bite is one of the most powerful in the animal kingdom, with an estimated force of around 1,800 kilograms per square centimeter. To put that in perspective, that's enough to snap an adult crocodile in half or crush the hull of a small boat like cardboard. And hidden inside that mouth is its ultimate weapon, tusks more than 20 inches long. They aren't for eating. Hippos are herbivores, consuming as much as 88 pounds of grass in a single night. Their tusks are combat weapons, sharp and lethal, built to defend their territory from any intruder. And here's something very few people associate with this animal: its extreme territoriality. A hippo doesn't attack out of hunger, it attacks because it believes you've invaded its space. And its definition of space is remarkably broad. It can be a stretch of river, a grazing bank, or simply the area around its young. It doesn't distinguish between a crocodile, a rival hippo, or a boat full of tourists. If it senses that something or someone has crossed an invisible line, the response is an immediate, brutal attack. This aggression isn't the exception, it's the rule. It's a survival strategy, perfected over millions of years. Now let's bring these facts to a specific place: the Zambezi River, the fourth longest in Africa. It's a vibrant, thriving ecosystem, but also one of the most dangerous places in the world. The main reason isn't its rapids or its crocodiles, but its population of nearly 90,000 hippos. 90,000. That's the largest concentration on the planet. Every bend in the river, every backwater, is the territory of some group of these animals. For the communities living along its banks, navigating the Zambezi is a constant balancing act, a daily risk calculation. They know that beneath that seemingly calm surface, a force lurks that's capable of destroying their boats and their lives in an instant. The river provides for them, but it also presents a constant, silent threat. The same holds true for the legendary Nile River. Although its hippo population has shrunk and become fragmented today, historically it was one of the great dangers of river travel. The ancient Egyptians knew this well. In their mythology, the goddess Taweret, protector of fertility and childbirth, had the head of a hippopotamus. It was a way of honoring and appeasing the animal's dual nature, a creature that brings life to the river ecosystem, but can also take it away with terrifying violence. This duality is what makes the hippo so fascinating and at the same time, so feared. It's not a monster. It's an herbivore that evolved to become the absolute ruler of its environment through unmatched aggression. And its body has adaptations that seem straight out of science fiction. Take its skin, for example. It spends hours under Africa's scorching sun, yet it doesn't burn. That's because it secretes a pinkish substance, a kind of viscous gel that acts as a natural sunscreen and antibiotic. This so-called blood sweat, as it was once called, protects it from infection in a bacteria-filled aquatic environment. It's a detail that shows just how perfectly adapted it is to its amphibious life. Every trait of its biology is built to help it dominate the river. But the danger in these rivers doesn't always come with 2-foot-long tusks. Sometimes it's invisible. In places like the Congo River, where hippos also live, there's a silent enemy, schistosomiasis. It's a disease caused by a parasite that lives in fresh water and infects millions of people every year. Simple contact with contaminated water is enough for the larvae to penetrate the skin. It's a threat you can't see, can't hear, and gives no warning. This adds another layer of danger to these ecosystems. The river isn't just home to the most aggressive creature around. The water itself can be a vehicle for devastating disease. The visible danger, the hippo, forces you to keep your distance, but the invisible danger lurks in every drop. It's a combination that turns these ecosystems into deadly traps. Let's go back to the aggression, because that's the core of its reputation. What triggers it? Often nothing obvious to a human observer. A boat passing too close, a fisherman casting his net in the wrong spot, or simply being in the wrong place at the wrong time. There's no predictable pattern beyond territorial defense. Attacks are explosions of violence that seem to come out of nowhere. One animal behavior study reached an unsettling conclusion. The hippo appears to have one of the lowest tolerances for intrusion of any animal in the kingdom. Its personal space is enormous, and its response to that space being violated is wildly disproportionate. This unpredictable nature is exactly what cements it as the undisputed king of Africa's rivers. Even Nile crocodiles, formidable predators in their own right, generally avoid confronting an adult hippo. They know it's a losing battle. There are documented cases of hippos killing crocodiles not to eat them, but simply because they were seen as a threat to their young or as competition for territory. It's a display of absolute power. In this river ecosystem, the hippo has no natural predators once it reaches adulthood. It sits at the top of the food chain, not because of what it eats, but because of what it's capable of destroying. And here's where the story gets even stranger. Despite being strict herbivores, there are isolated and controversial reports of hippos engaging in cannibalism or scavenging. It's not typical behavior, but under conditions of extreme stress or scarce resources, they've been observed eating meat. This doesn't make them carnivores, but it does add a dark and unsettling wrinkle to their biology. It suggests that, under pressure, the rules that define this creature can break down. It's a reminder that in nature, survival often defies our tidy classifications. Consider the paradox this animal represents. A creature that spends its days practically motionless in the water, whose diet consists of grass, and yet is responsible for more human deaths in Africa than any other large mammal. It's a walking contradiction. It's as if nature created this creature to remind us that appearances are the thinnest veil there is, that calm can be the prelude to the most extreme violence, and that the greatest danger doesn't always come from the loudest roar, but from the one waiting silently beneath the surface. That's the image that stays with us, an animal that defies any attempt at simple classification. It's not a predator, yet it kills more than many predators do. It's an herbivore, but its aggression rivals that of a hyper-motivated carnivore. It lives in water, but doesn't swim. It looks slow, but outruns you. And this collection of contradictions is precisely what makes it so dangerous. Our brains are wired to recognize patterns and categorize threats. A lion is a predator. A venomous snake is a stealthy threat. A hippo is a hippo. It doesn't fit, and that lack of a clear category leaves us defenseless, unable to predict its next move. The point is that unpredictability is a psychological weapon. People who live near African rivers don't fear the hippo the way they fear a lion. It's a different kind of fear. Fear of a lion is the fear of being hunted. Fear of a hippo is the fear of arbitrary violence, an explosion of fury with no apparent cause. It's the fear of crossing a line you didn't know existed. And mentally, that's far more exhausting. You live in a constant state of alertness, not against intention, but against whim. The way hippos move underwater is the perfect metaphor for their nature. They don't swim, they bounce. They push off the bottom with an awkward kind of grace, almost as if they don't quite belong in that environment, yet dominate it all the same. It's a disarming image. It looks inefficient, almost ridiculous. But from that position, from the riverbed, they hold a total tactical advantage. They control the battlefield from below. They can see the silhouettes of boats against the light on the surface. They can feel the vibrations in the water. And when they decide to attack, it isn't a chase, it's an interception. They surge straight up, mouths open, right beneath their target. It's a perfect ambush strategy, executed by an animal that looks like anything but a strategist. It's a creature that forces you to rethink everything. And in doing so, it forces you to rethink your own perception of danger. We've grown used to associating threat with certain traits. Sharp teeth for tearing flesh, claws, hunting speed, the hippo proves that brute force, extreme territoriality, and a body that is itself a siege weapon can be just as lethal a formula, maybe even more so. Back to the idea of the attack. What makes it so terrifying isn't just the force, it's the intent, or rather, the apparent lack of it. A hippo doesn't attack you to eat you. It attacks you to eliminate you. It's a subtle but crucial distinction. A predator has a clear biological goal: to feed. Violence is a means to an end. For the hippo, violence is the end in itself. The goal is the total elimination of the perceived threat. That's why the attacks are so destructive. They don't stop until the object of their fury, whether it's a boat, a crocodile, or a person, has been completely neutralized. And this aggression extends even to their own kind. Fights between males are legendary for their brutality. They use their massive tusks to inflict terrible, often fatal, wounds on each other. Their bodies are covered in scars from past battles. It's a life of constant conflict to maintain status and access to females. This violence within their own species is essentially the training ground that makes them such formidable fighters against any other creature. They live in a state of perpetual war. It's no wonder they see a threat in every shadow. Think again about the Zambezi River, with its 90,000 hippos. That's not just a number, it's a population density that guarantees conflict. Every stretch of that river belongs to someone. Every sandbank, every deep pool. For such a territorial animal, living under those conditions is like living in an overcrowded city where every neighbor is a potential rival. The tension is constant, and that tension inevitably spills over onto any other creature that dares to enter its domain, humans included. The river isn't dangerous despite the hippos, it's dangerous because the sheer concentration of hippos itself creates an ecosystem of violence. This reality has shaped the culture and practices of the people who have coexisted with hippos for millennia. They don't see them as cute, harmless animals. They see them for what they are, a force of nature, as dangerous and unpredictable as a flood or a wildfire. They learn to read the water, to recognize the subtle signs that might indicate a hippo's presence. They know which hours of the day are riskiest for approaching the shore. They know that the sound of a hippo's yawn isn't a sign of sleepiness, it's a weapons display, a warning. It's knowledge passed down from generation to generation, born from the necessity of surviving alongside Africa's most dangerous mammal. Even its digestion is a paradox. Being herbivores, you'd expect a digestive system similar to a cow's, with multiple stomach chambers for fermenting cellulose. But that's not the case. Its system is actually inefficient. Hippos don't chew cud. Much of the grass they eat passes through them without being fully digested. This has an enormous ecological consequence. Their waste releases a massive amount of nutrients into the rivers, fertilizing the water and forming the base of the aquatic food chain. Plankton feeds on those nutrients, fish feed on the plankton, and other creatures feed on the fish. So, ironically, the river's most destructive animal is also the one that gives it life. It's the ecosystem's violent gardener. This duality is the final key to understanding it. The hippo is both creator and destroyer. Its presence sustains the river ecosystem, yet it also terrorizes it. It's a fundamental piece that can't be removed without the whole system collapsing, even though its very nature is violence. It's the clearest reminder that nature doesn't operate by human morality. There's no good or bad. There are only survival strategies. And the hippo's strategy is absolute domination through overwhelming aggression. In the end, the world's most dangerous river isn't dangerous because of a single monstrous creature. It's dangerous because of a combination of factors, with the hippo acting as the catalyst. It's the visible, terrifying threat that sets the rules of the game. But there are also invisible dangers, like parasites in the water. And there's the nature of the environment itself, the current, the rapids, the lack of visibility. The hippo is the embodiment of that ecosystem's danger. It's the face of an environment that is, at once, a source of both life and death. And after all this, the image that lingers is its stare. Those small, almost pig-like eyes peeking just above the water's surface. There's no emotion in them, no malice, no anger. Just cold, calculating vigilance. It's the gaze of a being that doesn't need to justify its power because it simply wields it. In that stare lies the answer to why it's so dangerous. Not because it's evil, but because in its world, in its river, it is the only law that matters.